blah, blah, blah. But there I was, sitting on my couch yesterday morning, having a cup of coffee in my dressing gown, reading the paper and watching The Insiders, when all of a sudden I hear Barrie Cassidy say this.
Well, I'm now very strongly of the view that Julia Gillard will not lead Labor into the next election. I think there will be a change, either by her own hand or by the actions of others. I'm not relying entirely on guesswork here.
So that got my attention. Barrie Cassidy, host of ABC One's Insiders program. Barrie, good morning to you.
Morning, guys.
Someone has said something to you that has made you say that.
Well, more than one, based on conversations over the weekend. And one thing that I have managed to do over the past 2 years is ignore conversations with Rudd supporters because they can tell you anything. and it's all so self-serving. But when you start hearing it from Gillard supporters, or at least people who were Gillard supporters in March of this year when it last came to a head, then it gets your attention.
When is this likely to happen?
Well, the last two sitting weeks of the Parliament will be the critical time. Those now who have switched and want change started, I think, to believe as well that Julia Gillard herself must be starting to feel the pressure and must be going through a period of introspection. Now, what I discovered as a result of what I said yesterday is that to this point she is certainly not returning. Her supporters claim that she is as determined as ever to see it through. And, of course, that then complicates things because Kevin Rudd has said he will not challenge.
Rudd or someone else?
Only Rudd. That's the only thought is that those who have switched allegiances are only considering Kevin Rudd. There is no other alternative, and that's based on the fact that they do believe he will significantly improve the vote. Julia Gillard got a lot of support back in March. She never went to a vote, but it was considered that she had at least 60 of the the votes that she needed. She needs 50 plus. But that was based on, I guess, a belief that at some point, now with Kevin Rudd off the scene and then focusing on big-ticket items like the NDIS and higher education and so on, that she would eventually improve the primary vote. Now, it's well into June and that hasn't happened.
But constantly you hear Kevin Rudd say, I'm not interested, I'm not standing, I'm not going to do it.
In fact, he said there are no circumstances under which I would accept the leadership.
So what effect does that have? I mean, what strength has that got? What credibility has he got?
Well, none if he sticks by that pledge. None if he breaks the pledge. But the point is, I think that the focus would move so quickly onto Kevin Rudd and what all that means, the Kevin Rudd leadership and what that means. But again, I think this is where I agree with Dennis Shanahan's assessment in the Australian this morning, because he essentially says the same that I do, that he expects change will happen. It's just the who will go to Julia Gillard, when will they go, and what will they say is still to be determined. But I still think they still believe that will happen. That's the way that it will be resolved, that it'll be the nature of the people who approach Julia Gillard and the argument that they put that will be convincing.
What does it mean for someone then like Wayne Swan?
Well, if there was to be a leadership change, Wayne Swan would go straight to the back bench. He wouldn't serve as treasurer. There'll be others too. There'll be 4 or 5 ministers who would do the same thing. But then again, that's what happened when there was that aborted leadership coup in March. 4 or 5 front benches, supporters of Kevin Rudd, went to the back bench. You'd get the same situation if Julia Gillard was to go.
Okay, if this happens, Barrie, how many seats does it improve Labor's position by?
Well, you can only go on what the polls now say, and that suggests that Kevin Rudd would run it close. In other words, there might be 20 seats, 20 to 25 seats that he could save, and at an outside chance he could even win the election. That's what the polls suggest. But what that doesn't take into account is the atmospherics. If there was to be a change, how would the country take it? How would they accept, and would that further divide the marginal vote and the Labor vote? So it's impossible to say, but the polls suggest everywhere that Kevin Rudd has a much better prospect of an improved vote than Julia Gillard.
Talking Melbourne.